Come from the 60th, Dr. Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A couple times today I have been admonished to be courageous. Courage is not generally a virtue I lack. However, I've learned that it needs to be employed in conjunction with informed wisdom. So, in an attempt to become wiser and more informed, I'd like to ask a few questions, if I may. I believe I should direct this one to the chairman, if you would yield, please.
Chairman yield.
Yes.
Is there a process currently underway to conduct studies to determine the validity and efficacy of marijuana or substances derived from marijuana in the treatment of PTSD?
To my knowledge, there are studies going on elsewhere, but I'm not aware of any studies in West Virginia.
Yes, sir.
If that answers your question.
Do the cost-benefit analyses support a person with PTSD purchasing a pharmaceutical product whenever it might become available, when they might have the benefits now at almost no cost?
I don't think I can answer that question.
Thank you, sir.
That's beyond my expertise.
Mr. Speaker, is there someone I might direct that question to?
The gentleman can ask any member to yield if they're willing to yield. I can't tell you which member you would want to direct that to.
Yes, sir. May I direct the question to Delegate Rohrbach? Delegate Rohrbach, would you yield, sir? Would you yield, sir?
Gentleman yield.
Yes,
The gentleman from 17th yield. Gentleman yields.
Yes.
In your estimation, does the cost-benefit analysis support a person with PTSD waiting to purchase a pharmaceutical product when it might be available, whenever it might become available, when they might have the benefits now at a lower cost?
To the delegate, that's very far out of my, I don't practice mental health medicine, and I'm not going to attempt to answer that question.
Okay. In your estimation, are the counterindications, such as the THC, is there a particular reason that I should recommend to friends of mine who are suffering from PTSD that they wait for a pharmaceutical product that might be able to help them, that has the THC removed, and pay the extra cost rather than growing their own marijuana now and smoking it?
I would think that would be up to the gentleman to advise his friends as he'd see fit.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate your time. Would the chairman yield again, please?
Gentleman yield. Gentleman yields.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. By what process should this body consider the potential legalization of the medical use of substances derived from marijuana?
It would be the same process we follow in any other situation involving a significant issue. Bills would be introduced, they'd be referred to committees. Committees would hold, if a public hearing is requested, input from the public would be received. There would be technical assistance provided at the committee meetings.
Yes, sir. Would that include the bill introduced by the, I'm sorry, sir.
One or more committees would probably be involved in that process. I think we have one now that's referred to 3 committees. So as it works its way through that process, it would ultimately get before the floor and be taken up by this body in its entirety.
Yes, sir. Would that be the bill that was introduced by the gentleman from Kanawha?
I'm sorry, I haven't seen that bill, so I can't comment on it. I don't know.
Okay, sir. Is there an interim plan to provide the opportunity for those benefits while we move forward toward that goal?
To my knowledge, we haven't discussed interim topics yet. It could very well be an interim topic either of health or one of the other committees. It could be the Judiciary Committee basically looks at legal issues associated with any type of action that we take. It could be a combination. I mean, there's a possibility that the leadership could assign it to a joint task force or to a multiple committees to work together on. But at this point, we usually don't do interim study topics until the end of the session when we determine what we might not have been able to get to during the session.
I'm sorry, sir. I phrased the question improperly. The use of the term interim wasn't referring to the session, but rather to the plan. An interim plan for how we might help people between now and when
I'm not aware of that.
Thank you, sir. If we were to pass this amendment today and the bill were to pass, how would this amendment affect the process that we are now going through?
But as I said before, I think there would be a great deal of uncertainty and confusion if this amendment passed, because as the gentleman from Raleigh's questions illustrate, I mean, the fact that you could convince a physician to give you a prescription doesn't necessarily mean you could find a source to fill it, other than perhaps growing your own marijuana in your backyard. So
Yes.
there's just a lot of missing pieces as to what's going to happen if this amendment is passed. That I can only speculate. I can't.
How would the passage of this amendment affect the intent of the bill itself?
Well, we get our information every year through the process of the Board of Health, which comes from the DEA and the FDA. And every year that I've been here, and this is my 7th, we've updated the schedule based on the evolution of the science as to what needs to be included. And as I'm sure the gentleman understands, those people who feed these habits are pretty creative in the formation of the substances they create. Whenever there's a substance on the list, they'll mess with a molecule or two and change the nature of the substance. So we always, in a constant annual process of updating the control list. And if you look at the bill itself, I think it's like 30 pages long. There are various places in which new substances have been inserted into the various schedules.
Yes. Would the movement of, well, we don't even actually have the power to, if I understood the argument previously, we don't actually have the power in this body to move a substance from one schedule to another. We're simply reflecting what the federal government has provided us.
Well, we normally follow their expert guidance on that, and that's why all these other substances are where they are.
Yes, sir. Were we to actually move it to Schedule 2, and the reason that I ask that is because Schedule 1 specifically says, if I read it correctly, that the substance has no medical value at all. Would that be of any value at all, sir?
Well, we'd still have the same problem. I mean, we lack the structure to deal with it. We lack any kind of regulatory structure. So, in my opinion, it would still create the same problems. The punishment might be different depending on which schedule you violate, but the problems still accompany the lack of any structure or regulatory environment in which to operate.
How would this amendment affect, would it change the current effect of law on someone who is growing marijuana in their backyard and smoking it using it for their own consumption?
My understanding of this amendment would have the effect of, for simple possession, have the effect of reducing the penalty, but I'm not certain about that. Let me check with counsel. If you were charged with intent to manufacture or distribute, the penalty would be slightly lower on the upper end, but it could still be a felony.
Thank you, sir. I certainly appreciate your time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
John from 17th, Rohrbach.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the distinguished chairman